Even though promotional posters for the game introduced Five Nights at Freddy's 2 as a grand reopening, it's all but confirmed to be a prequel. The most compelling evidence for this is that upon completion of Night 5 you receive a paycheck which reveals that the game takes place in 1987. And if you remember, in the first game, Phone Guy mentions an incident that happened sometime in 1987 that he simply calls the Bite of 87.
They used to be allowed to walk around during the day too, but then there was the Bite of 87.
So, unless some sort of time-traveling device is introduced in later installments, it's pretty safe to say that Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is a prequel. If you're somehow still not convinced, take a look at the article underneath the paycheck. It reveals that the pizzeria is closing and that all the new animatronics that were introduced in this game will be scrapped due to malfunctioning. However, the old animatronics will remain in the hopes that the restaurant will reopen someday in the future, which would explain why we don't encounter the new animatronics in the first game. Then there's also the fact that in the first game it sounds like Phone Guy is killed during Night 4.
I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there, you know. Oh no.
But in the second game he's obviously fine. Now that Golden Freddy has actually been named in the game, Phone Guy and the Puppet are the only two remaining characters without an official name. Almost all animatronics in the series are male, the only exceptions being Chica and Toy Chica, which are female. There's also the Puppet, which is a bit of a mystery but is generally assumed to be male. Then there's Mangle, while Mangle is referred to as a he by Phone Guy.
I think the employees refer to him as just the Mangle.
The custom night challenge titled Ladies Night includes Chica, Toy Chica and Mangle, leading many to believe that it's actually a she. Let's talk about the Bite of 87 incident. The second game is set in 1987, the year of the incident, which is hardly a coincidence. But we never see or hear anything about this during the game, which must mean that it hasn't happened yet. But if that's the case, the game unintentionally gives us the exact date for when it must have happened. Because at the end of Night 6, Jeremy is informed that the pizzeria is closing and that he will be working the day shift for the restaurant's last event. A birthday party the next day.
We have one more event scheduled for tomorrow, a birthday. You'll be on day shift.
In other words, the Bite of 87 occurred on November 14th. After completing each night up to Night 4 in the second game, you get a really strange cutscene like this one. But what's really weird about these short clips is that we're actually in the dining area from the first game. The creator of the game, Scott Cawthon, is also the voice behind Phone Guy.
Hello?
Interesting to note is that even Scott himself simply calls him Phone Guy, which might suggest that he doesn't have an actual name yet. After playing the first 6 nights in the second game as Jeremy Fitzgerald, you actually play the 7th custom night as someone named Fritz Smith. What's interesting here though is that his name is very similar to the surnames of the two main characters. Fritz taken from Fitzgerald and Smith taken from Schmidt. As I'm sure most of you know by now, sometimes after one of the animatronics attacks, the game doesn't end. Instead, you get to play one of these top-down 2D minigames. I won't go into what these games could potentially be about because at this point we really don't know. But after reading through several forums, the wiki and of course playing the game myself, there might be a few things you've missed. For example, in all but one of these 4 minigames, you'll hear a distorted voice calling out different letters. They each spell out save them, help them, and save him. In one of the games where you play as the puppet, the game ends with a jump scare by Golden Freddy. Let's play that again. You probably still can't see it, but there's actually a 5th child, right there. For one single frame before Golden Freddy appears, a 5th child can be seen. But another thing is happening at the same time. The score in the upper left corner changes to a seemingly random number every single time you play this minigame. Then there's also of course this guy. He's been dubbed the Purple Man for now, and he doesn't seem to resemble any of the animatronics. He even arrives in a car in one game and thus is most likely human. He always appears in 2 of the minigames, and in a third he actually kills you before crashing the game. There's also an Easter egg in the second game similar to the Golden Freddy Easter egg in the first game. This time it seems to happen at random but will also crash the game. It looks almost exactly like Toy Bunny, except for the fact that this animatronic is completely black with white teeth and eyes and appear to be some sort of shadow or hallucination given how it just slowly fades away. In the second game, it's easy to figure out when the game is supposed to take place because the game actually gives us the exact date. From this we can figure out that night 5 is a Thursday, which is a little weird as that means we started working on a Sunday. Nevertheless, this also means that night 6 is Friday the 13th, which seems appropriate as it's a date surrounded by a lot of superstition. But the first game only gives us a partial date and leaves out the year, but you'll notice that the dates between the 2 games follow the exact same pattern. Night 6 in the first game is also November 13th. Now we could assume that this is also a Friday for 2 reasons. 1, paychecks are usually given out on Fridays, and 2, it would follow the same pattern as the second game. By doing this we can actually narrow it down a bit because Friday the 13th in November doesn't happen every single year. And given that the technology seems to be a little dated in both games, I'm also going to assume that neither takes place in the future. That leaves us with 1992, 1998 and 2009. Okay, let's go back to the second game. Take a look at the money we're receiving. $100.50. Why not just 100? I don't know about you, but if I had to come up with a random number like this, I'd be most likely to use a whole number and skip the decimals altogether. So maybe it isn't random. We work between 12 and 6 AM, so 6 hours. 6 hours times 5 nights is 30 hours. 100.50 divided by 30 gives us $3.35 per hour. If we compare that to federal and state minimum wages in the US in 1987, it actually checks out. If we do the same for the paycheck we received in the first game at night 5, we can completely rule out 2009, and the most likely year of the 2 remaining is 1992. However, if it turns out that the identical date should be mere coincidence and the 6th night in the first game is in fact not a Friday like in the second game, the first 5 nights at Freddy's could really take place anywhere between 1987 and somewhere around 1998, depending on which state we're actually located in. That is, if we're even located in the US at all. Take a listen to this.
Hello and welcome to your new summer job at the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Did he just say,
hello and welcome to your new summer job,
As far as I know, it's not considered to be summer in November, unless you live in the southern hemisphere where summer actually starts in December and all of a sudden,
welcome to your new summer job,
would make a lot of sense. But instead nothing else would. Why is Phone Guy speaking with an American accent? Why are we dealing with dollars? Why is everything in English? I could go on like this for a while. So, conclusion? With the evidence we've found so far, both games most likely takes place in the US, and the first game most likely takes place around 1992, and the second game certainly takes place in 1987. But there's still some conflicting evidence, so for the time being, we don't really know shit.